1, 2, 3, 4. If there is a misrepresentation as to the fortune, the character, the rank of a person, chastity of a person, that is not a fraudulent act. But if there is a misrepresentation as to, what is that? If a woman hides from the man pregnancy by a man other than the husband, and of course, that must be something that can still be hidden by the woman. Because if that pregnancy is already, what is the old case there, 5 months, can you still hide the pregnancy of 5 months? I doubt if you can hide your pregnancy if it's already a 5-month pregnancy. That is no longer a fraudulent act. Because fraudulent is something that can be hidden. Right? Or if you have to hide from the from your spouse, let's say, at the other hand, the man had premarital sex with women before, or even the woman, is that a fraudulent act? No, that is not a fraudulent act. That is misrepresentation as to the character or the chastity of the person. That is not a fraudulent act. It does not constitute a ground for annulment of the marriage due to fraud. And what is the reason behind that a rule that you can go to court and file an action for the annulment of marriage if there was pregnancy by a man other than the husband? Well, the law abhors a situation where a stranger in the family will intrude into the successional rights of the man when the issue of succession will come. That is the reason behind that provision of the law. So the man can go to court and file an action for annulment of the marriage, alleging that there was fraud. But if you try to recall the provisions of the rules, how do you plead fraud? You have to plead it in particular. If you try to recall the provisions of Rule 10 of the Rules of Court, in relation to the provisions of Article 8 of the Rules of Court. So Rules of Court, you have to allege fraud. But then you have to specify the fraudulent act. You cannot just say that I was defrauded by my spouse because a few months after we got married, my wife gave birth. Specify the fraudulent act. If one of the spouses would hide the fact of conviction for a crime involving moral turpitude, then that can be considered as a fraudulent act on the part of the spouse. If you are going to conceal the fact that you are having these sexually transmissible diseases, or if you're going to conceal the fact of habitual drunkenness, all these are grounds for annulment of the marriage, and these are considered as fraudulent acts. But as I've said, in Article 46, Paragraph 5 of the law, the law tells us that no other misrepresentation. Yeah. So that means that they are exclusive fraudulent acts. Or what is the concept of this ground for annulment of marriage? For the reason that you cannot comply with you cannot provide sex to your spouse. Is it sterility or is it what? Diba? Impotence. Impotence that continues to be incurable. So in the case of Alcazar versus Alcazar, if that spouse of yours cannot comply with that duty to the marriage man of providing this well, of course, sex, in order to be able to produce children, then that can be a ground for annulment of the marriage. There is that defect in the physiological anatomy of the man or the spouse, that there is impossibility of having sexual intercourse with the said spouse. Then that can be a ground for annulment of the marriage. But 45 and 47 are interrelated with one another because 45 provides for the grounds and the provisions of 47 would provide for the period within which to call an action for annulment of the marriage. If the marriage, however, is void, then there is no prescriptive period for it to be declared inexistent. So 39 is similarly situated with the provisions of Article 1410 of the Civil Code, because if it is an ordinary contract, there is no prescriptive period for it to be declared inexistent. That is the same as Article 39. That is why I was telling you that there was a bill that was filed in Congress where I was the only person who appeared. I was the only one who responded. With all those people, those bright people in front of you, you are the only one dealing with them. Diba? Mabuti na lang si Senator Enrile objected to several of those proposed bills. Yung same-sex marriage, a woman, I think it was a woman senator who filed the proposed bill to allow same-sex marriage in the Philippines. I'll not mention the name anymore. Because there were 3 women senators at that time. We had Siahani, we had Rasul, and we had Nikki Goseteng. Who do you think among them filed the bill? Who do you think among them, among the 3 filed the bill? Only God knows, as far as you're concerned, but I know. I still remember that. I still remember that. And it was the same person who filed the bill seeking to amend the provisions of Article 891 of the Civil Code. But it was the same person who objected to the proposals. And Maceda said, considering the serious objections on the part of Senator Enrile, let us take them up again at a future time. I do not know what happened to those bills. Palagay ko, wala na yun eh. They did not even reach the first reading. Right? They did not even reach the first reading. But then the problem is, if you do not have a ground for annulment of the marriage, if you do not have a ground for declaration of nullity of the marriage, but probably your client would like to get married, what would be your legal advice? Suppose a client of yours, the first case that will come to you will be a case like this. Sabi ng lalaki or babae, for example, whoever your client will be. I want to get married to my newfound girlfriend. Pero sabi mo, are you not married? Yes, I'm married, but I want to get married to my newfound girlfriend. Oh, bigamos yun. Oh, attorney, that's why I'm here. Meron siyang blank check. Attorney, I have 100 million in my checking account. If you can advise me correctly and I can get married, fill it up one half of that 100 million. No, 50 million for a short advice. Diba? For a simple advice. Then you interview your client, no ground for annulment. Interview your client further, no ground for nullity. Sayang yung 50 million, diba? Pero hindi masasayang yun. Sabihin mo, I have a hired killer. 50,000 lang. Hired killer. Attorney, parricide yun. Diba? Parricide yun. Diba? Makukulong ako. Kasama ka doon. Diba? Kasama ka doon. Conspirator. Ano ba? O nga, no? But what would be your advice? You advise, you ask father, where is your spouse. Yun nga, attorney, I've not seen my spouse for the last 10 years. Ah, very good. You're about to fill up the check. Diba? Do you know where your spouse is? Where your spouse is? I've not seen him. No communication, no text message, etc., etc. I've not seen him. Have you exerted efforts to locate your spouse? Yes. I've exerted all efforts. What efforts, for example? Kasi dapat mayroong well-founded belief eh. And the well-founded belief that the person is already dead should be supported by serious efforts to locate the spouse. So what efforts have you exerted? Yeah. I have already gone to the barangay, I've gone to the police, I've gone around the country, I've already made publications. I've already gone to the media, I've gone to the parents, I've gone to all the friends. I've exerted all efforts to locate my spouse. But despite all efforts, I cannot locate my spouse. I do not know where she is now. Diba, 4 years lang yon. Or probably, who is your spouse anyway? Well, that spouse of mine is a traveled man. At one time or another, he boarded a vessel, and the vessel capsized. I've never heard about him for the last how many years? 2 years. Diba 2 years yan? Because Article 391 has been amended for purposes of 391, yung mga vessel that capsized, the plane that crashed, then this person went to war, then has been exposed to the dangers of death under other circumstances. Then that has been reduced from 4 to only 2 years. And efforts have been exerted. There is now a well-founded belief that this person is already dead. So if that is the situation now, what is your advice? Let's file a petition for declaration of presumptive death. If you can present these circumstances in order to establish this well-founded belief that this person is already dead, then a judgment may be rendered declaring the person presumptively dead. Now question, upon receipt of that judgment, upon receipt of that decree of presumptive death, then you can advise your client to file an application for a marriage license. Paspasan mo na. You apply for it at 8 o'clock, you get it at 12 o'clock. I will find a way that you can get it at 12 o'clock so that at 1 o'clock I will fill up the check. I'll fill up the check for 50 million. Simple advice, di ba? Pwede ka lang magpahinga. Biro mo, first case mo. First case, 50 million kinita mo. Simple advice lang. Di ba? Simple advice. Pwede ka nang magliwalay. Di ba? Habang nagpapahinga ka from the bar examination. Di ba? But that is the situation. Now, it's not appealable. No, that is not appealable. You cannot utilize 45. You cannot utilize 45. The only way that the court can check whether the decision is correct or not is 65. By way of 65, grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or excess of jurisdiction. But you have to remember that the law and the court are very strict on this matter. Because you have to establish, you have to present evidence of circumstances to establish the well-founded belief. Unlike in the provisions of Article 83 before of the Civil Code. Yung tinatawag natin generally presumed to be dead. Di ba? After an absence for a period of time, then there is, that person is generally presumed to be dead. Hindi na pwede yun. There must have to be presentation of evidence. You look at the situation in the case of Republic versus Nolasco. Yung kaso kasi ng Republic versus Nolasco is the first case decided by the Supreme Court on the provisions of Article 41 of the Family Code. Because here is a foreigner getting married to a Filipino, but the Filipino was a seaman. But of course, that foreigner, a British lady got married to a Filipino seaman. But let us say, for example, that family is residing in a place like ours, na wala kang nakikitang kukuti-kutitap sa gabi, di ba? Pagdating ng gabi, tulog, di ba? Dead place. So the woman said that this is not the kind of life that I would like to enjoy. What I enjoyed in London is not here in the Philippines. So she left the house of the parents-in-law. Did not return anymore, but when that husband came back to the Philippines, trying to locate that spouse, cannot locate that spouse, filed a petition for declaration of presumptive death. But that man was not able to present evidence serious enough to look for the said woman. He was not able to establish the well-founded belief. Well-founded belief is based on circumstances or efforts that were exerted by the present spouse in order to locate the other spouse. So the Supreme Court said no. In the case of Republic versus the Court of Appeals and Allegro, a case that happened in Catbalogan, again the woman disappeared. Then what did this man do? Went around as from friends, then came to Manila, then had a part-time job as a taxi driver. In the meantime, he was looking for the spouse. But the spouse was nowhere to be found. Then went back to Catbalogan and filed a petition for declaration of presumptive death. Supreme Court again said the efforts were not serious enough to look for your spouse. So the efforts must tend to be serious enough. In fact, the Supreme Court in the case of the Republic versus Nolasco said that the efforts that were presented were not serious enough. There were merely sketchy efforts to locate your spouse. They did not establish the well-founded belief that the spouse was already dead. The Supreme Court said, kasi nagpit ang Supreme Court dito. But in the case of SSS versus Bailon, there was a decree declaring the spouse presumptively dead. And what is the rule? It is not appealable. So that man got married. Is the marriage a valid marriage, considering that the marriage has not yet been annulled or nullified? Yes. Because what gives you the capacity to contract that subsequent marriage, even during the existence of that previous marriage, is the declaration of presumptive death of the absent spouse. And that the marriage is also a valid marriage. So you have two marriages, and yet that is not well, of course, that will not make you liable for the crime of bigamy. Because the very purpose of the law in requiring you to go to court and file that petition for declaration of presumptive death is to prevent you from being prosecuted for the crime of bigamy. That is the same situation in the case of declaration of nullity before you get married again. In order to prevent that person getting married again, to prevent the person from being prosecuted for the crime of bigamy. Now the problem is, I suppose there is now a decree declaring the person presumptively dead. Then that decision is not appealable. Remember, one of the newest cases here is the case of Republic versus Yolanda Granada, where Supreme Court said no, that is not appealable. The only way by which the appellate court can check the decision is by way of Rule 65. So you file a special civil action for certiorari from the RTC, you go to the Court of Appeals and file a special civil action for certiorari alleging grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or excess of jurisdiction in declaring that absent spouse presumptively dead. That is the only way you can attack the decision of the court. But let us say that it is now a final and executory judgment. That's why your client got married. But suppose there is a physical reappearance on the part of that absent spouse. Because the rule is that the moment there is an affidavit of reappearance that is registered by an interested person with notice to the spouses in the second marriage, automatically that marriage is terminated. But suppose instead of an affidavit of reappearance registered with notice to them, there was a physical reappearance of the absent spouse. SSS versus Biden would tell us that the absent spouse has been declared presumptively dead remains to be presumed dead. That person remains to be presumed dead. And secondly, that marriage remains to be a valid marriage. Because what will automatically terminate that second marriage is the registration of an affidavit of reappearance. And that is registered by an interested person with notice to the spouses in the second marriage. So that is not the situation in the law on marriage. We went to court, we nullified it. We went to court, we annulled it, and then we went to court and had the spouse absent declared presumptively dead. Declared presumptively dead. So you're going to allege that purposes of remarriage, you are filing a petition for declaration of the presumptive death of the absent spouse. Present evidence to establish the well-founded belief, on the basis of which the court may declare the person presumptively dead. Presumptively dead. Kaya tingnan nyo yung mga strict, that case of Lorino, that case of Nolasco, that case of Republic versus the Court of Appeals and Allegro. And of course, the case of Yolanda Granada, which is within the coverage of your examination. So, that is the law on marriage. And we annulled it, we nullified it, we declared the spouse presumptively dead, then the lesser part of it is legal separation. Well, of course, legal separation does not terminate the marriage, it does not dissolve the marriage bond. Because even if you secure a decree of legal separation today, when you are still young, can you reconcile before you die? Oh, yes, of course. But you're already 95 years old, then you manifest in court that you have reconciled, then the court will set aside the decree of legal separation, because this is a judgment that does not become immutable at all. Because we know that pursuant to the rules, if the judgment has become time executory, it has become immutable. The court has no more jurisdiction to modify the said judgment. But if it is a judgment of legal separation, it does not become immutable at all. It can be set aside by the court at any moment if there is a manifestation that the parties have already reconciled. So legal separation is not like annulment of marriage. Legal separation is not like divorce, because there is no divorce in our country. Legal separation is not like nullity of marriage, because in all the three proceedings that we have mentioned, there is dissolution of the marriage bond. There is termination of the marriage bond. But in the case of legal separation, there is no termination of the marriage bond between the parties. If the decree of legal separation is granted, then the spouses will only be allowed to live from bed and board, separately from bed and board. So you can go back to your parents, then the other one will go back to his parents. But, so you will be returned to sender. You'll be returned to sender. You go back to the sender. But then the problem is, if you reconcile, then yun, ba? That is one of the effects of legal separation. But it does not dissolve the marriage bond. Then, of course, what are the grounds for legal separation? If you try to compare the provisions of Article 55 today of the Family Code and the provisions of Article 97 in the Civil Code, in the Civil Code there were only 3 grounds for legal separation. In Article 97 of the Civil Code before, you had a tenth of the spouse against the life of the other spouse. Is it still there in the provisions of Article 55? Yes. attempt by one against the life of the other. And whenever there is that attempt by one against the life of the other, do you need to file a criminal case for attempted parricide? No need. Do you need conviction? No need. Because the rule is that you can file an action for legal separation ground. Attempt by one spouse against the life of the other. It is not necessary that there must tend to be a criminal case for attempted parricide. It is not necessary that there must tend to be conviction for that attempted parricide. Preponderance of evidence to prove that there was an attempt by one against the life of the other would be sufficient in order for the court to grant that for decree of legal separation. So if you can present that evidence, then the court may grant the decree of legal separation on the ground of attempt by one against the life of the other. But if you try to compare again the provisions of 97 of the Civil Code and the provisions of 55 of the Family Code, you cannot find the two words anymore that were found in 97. Because what were the grounds for legal separation under the provisions of Article 97 before? Aside from attempt by one against the life of the other spouse, there was that word adultery and concubinage. Adultery, then there was that word concubinage. Adultery on the part of the woman and concubinage on the part of the man. Those were the grounds for legal separation before. But do you find these two words in the Family Code provisions? No more. Because they've been merged into only one ground, that is sexual infidelity. That is sexual infidelity. But still you have to specify what is the sexual infidelity on the part of your spouse, the man, or on the part of your spouse, the woman. Because that will also revolve around the issue of adultery and concubinage. But it has become so general in character. It has become so general in character that if ever there is a situation where that woman might have caught that spouse in flagrante delicto of having sexual intercourse with that fellow, with that beautiful girl inside that massage clinic, di ba? Is that sexual infidelity? Yan ang mabigat doon sa provision ng law. That can cover that particular act on the part of that spouse of yours. That can cover that particular situation. So, if there is sexual infidelity on the part of that man or that woman, that is a ground for legal separation. That's a ground for legal separation. So you can file an action for legal separation. But of course, there are defenses in an action for legal separation. What are these defenses in an action for legal separation? Diba? Consent, condonation, pollution, connivance, known as the four C's. Then there is that mutual guilt. Then there is that prescription. Does the law enumerate in number 7 ground that is death? No. But the jurisprudence would tell us that the moment there is death of one spouse, during the tendency of an action for legal separation, which what will the court do? Remember the case of C versus Eugenio. In that case of C versus Eugenio, if there is death of one of the spouses in an action for legal separation, what will you do if you were the judge? Well, you have to make a distinction. It depends upon the stage of the action for legal separation. Because there are two stages dun sa legal separation. One is the issuance of the decree of legal separation, and second is the liquidation of the conjugal partnership and the absolute community of property regime. So you have to make a distinction. What would you do if you were the judge after the court has received the notice of death of one of the parties in an action for legal separation? Well, how will you respond to that kind of problem? As a judge, my action will depend upon the stage of the proceeding for legal separation. If I've already issued the decree of legal separation, or if I've already rendered the judgment decreeing legal separation, I would not dismiss the complaint for legal separation. Instead, I would proceed with the liquidation of the absolute community or the conjugal partnership of gains. You have to remember that if there is debt that arises during the pendency of an action for legal separation, the court normally dismisses the action. If I have not yet decided or issued the decree of legal separation, I would dismiss the action for legal separation because it has become moot and academic. In legal separation, there is only temporary separation between the spouses because of the possibility of at the age of 95, you went back to court or you will be going back to court and will tell the court that you've already reconciled. So temporary ang separation because of the possibility of reconciliation between the spouses. But in that, the separation is no longer temporary, but the separation is now permanent. In legal separation, temporary. In that, it is not temporary, but it is already a permanent separation. That if ever there is death of one of the parties in an action for legal separation, then the action will become moot and academic. It will become moot and academic. Then you try to write what the Supreme Court said in the case of C versus Eugenio. Because in that, the decedent will no longer be facing the highest tribunal of the land at Padre Paura. But in that, the decedent will now be facing a tribunal higher than the highest tribunal of the land. Quote unquote, that is the case of C versus Eugenio. However, if you have already decided the issue of the decree of legal separation, do not dismiss the action for legal separation. It is not moot and academic. Instead, I would proceed with the liquidation of the absolute community or the conjugal partnership properties of the husband and the wife. Because the dissolution, nagkaroon ng dissolution and eventual liquidation of the properties of the husband and wife. That is, if there is death on the part of one of the parties in an action for legal separation. But what about if there is an action for legal separation, but your defense is consent? Remember that consent comes prior to the act that may have given rise to a cause for legal separation. Condonation comes thereafter. Diba? What is an example of that condonation? Remember the case of Bugayong versus Gines? That if you caught your spouse in flagrante delicto having sexual intercourse with the paramour, but when your spouse went home that night, you agreed to sleep with your spouse. Condonation. Diba? The following week, you caught him again. But when he came back, then you slept with him again. The third week, talagang local. You caught him again, but you refused to sleep. Then you filed an action for legal separation the following day. Diba? Can that spouse of yours interpose the defense of condonation? Remember, the condonation of one does not carry with it the condonation of the other, or others as the case may be. The Supreme Court said in that case of Bugayong versus Gines, if you sleep, if you make love, after you caught your spouse, in that particular situation, then that is a case of condonation. But the condonation of one does not carry with it the condonation of the others. Because it's sexual intercourse on the part of that spouse is a separate and distinct ground for legal separation. In fact, they have different prescriptive periods. Remember that if, for example, you caught him last year, then how many years do you have? Then you caught him again early this year. Then how many years do you have? You caught him again June 1st. Then they have different prescriptive periods, and they are separate, and because they are separate and distinct grounds for legal separation. So the condonation of one last year does not carry with it the condonation of one early this year or even this coming, or at a future time. So yung condonation, consent comes prior to the act, diba? Prior to the act. Remember that case of People versus Schneckenberger, where a man and a woman married, but they agreed to live separately from one another. In fact, they put into writing an agreement that the man can live with another partner and the woman can live with another partner. And true to it, the man went to live with another woman. But the woman filed a complaint for legal separation. If you were the counsel, what's your defense? In order to dismiss that action for legal separation, you would interpose the defense of consent. You can put up the defense of consent because you agreed, you even agreed in writing, kaya lang, do not notarize that document, ha? Madidisbar ka, loko ka, di ba? Madidisbar ka. Do not notarize that document. You can prepare the agreement, but do not affix your signature. Do not notarize it. But that is a valid ground for the dismissal of the action for legal separation because there is consent. There is consent. But suppose that they agree that the man can live with another woman, then the woman can live with another man, and both of them are now living with different partners. Can any one of them go to court and file an action for legal separation? No, because of the principle of mutual guilt. If the woman will go to court and file an action for legal separation, or if the woman or the man will go to court and file an action for legal separation, the ground that the woman or the man or both of them are living with other partners, the court will dismiss the action for legal separation. Why? Because of mutual guilt. Idugtong mo, he who comes to court must have to come with clean hands. The plaintiff, Your Honor, is also living with another partner. I do not deny the fact that I'm living with another partner, Your Honor, but my wife or my husband is also living with another partner. Under the doctrine of mutual guilt, may I ask for a dismissal of the complaint for legal separation? The court will dismiss it on the ground of mutual guilt. And then the court will put that sentence, he who comes to court must have to come with clean hands. Consent, condonation, if there is an action for legal separation and there is no answer, we know that there is no default in an action for legal separation. You cannot have a default order and a default judgment in an action for legal separation because whether you like it or not, somebody is there. Sino ang kalaban mo kung wala kang if there is no answer? The Republic of the Philippines will be represented by the prosecutor or even the Office of the Solicitor General in order to protect the interests of the state and the marriage. The prosecutor will come in and will manifest that I'm appearing as counsel for the Republic of the Philippines in this action for legal separation where there is no answer. But what is the suspicion of the court? If ever there is no answer, pagka walang answer, itong dalawang ito, probably there is collusion or probably there is connivance between the parties. And under the rules and under the law, the court will issue now an order directing the prosecutor to conduct an investigation to determine whether there is collusion or not, or connivance or not. If the prosecutor will find out that there is connivance or collusion, then what will the prosecutor do? It will recommend, the prosecutor will recommend the dismissal of the complaint for legal separation. However, if he does not find after investigation, the prosecutor does not find any collusion or connivance between the parties, the prosecutor will have to make a report also. There is no collusion, so let us proceed. There is no connivance, let us proceed. Your Honor. Yeah. But if at any moment the court will detect that there is collusion or connivance of the prosecutor at any moment during the proceedings for legal separation, the court will find out that there is collusion or connivance, then the court will dismiss that action for legal separation. Because that is the interest of the state that is being protected. The interest of the state is being protected because we remember that the Constitution seeks to protect the family, preserve the family. Because the family is the foundation of our society. Marriage is the foundation of the family, and the family is the foundation of our society, which the state would like to protect. That's why there are so many provisions of the law that would make it very difficult for you to nullify the marriage, to have legal separation, to have that marriage declared void or annulled as the case may be. And they will take you to the Supreme Court if ever that is going to happen. Tingnan ninyo yung mga decisions and declaration of presumptive death. How many decisions do we have? Before the Supreme Court said no. Diba? No, because you were not able to present these pieces of evidence to prove that there was that well-founded belief. Diba? On the basis of facts and circumstances that you have undertaken in order to locate your spouse. That is why in cases of legal separation, the state will appear through the office of the Solicitor General or even the public prosecutor. Because the Solicitor General may designate the prosecutor, lalo na po yung mga malalayong lugar. Like for example, in far-flung areas, then there is going to be authority on the part of the prosecutors to appear for and in behalf of the state. Now, for every act that may give rise to a ground for legal separation, there is that separate and distinct prescriptive period. That if ever the prescriptive period is apparent from the action for legal separation, can the court dismiss it motu proprio? Or can you file a motion to dismiss on the ground of prescription? For example, the ground for legal separation is stated in the complaint for legal separation. For example, the complaint states that the plaintiff caught her spouse in flagrante delicto of having sexual intercourse with his paramour at December 1st, 1990. It was filed only yesterday. 1990, etc., etc. How many years has the action for legal separation? How many years has it already, how many times has it already prescribed, di ba? And prescribed na ng 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 times. Can the court dismiss it motu proprio? Or can you file a motion to dismiss on the ground of prescription? Yes, because it is apparent from the pleading. But if the prescriptive period is not apparent from the pleading, do not file a motion to dismiss, because that is more of evidence. That is more of evidentiary situation. That is evidentiary. So you file an answer, then if the court will find out later on that the prescriptive period is already there, for example, in the complaint, you have to hide kasi madi-dismiss ka agad eh. The allegation is merely a general allegation that the reason why you filed the action for legal separation is because of the fact that you caught your spouse in flagrante delicto of having sexual intercourse with the paramour. That's all. But you did not provide for a period. You did not allege the period. So, hidden. Can you file a motion to dismiss on the ground of prescription? No, that's evidentiary in nature. So you file an answer. Then during the trial, that's where you are going to determine whether it has already prescribed or not. Because the moment the prescriptive period will become apparent during the trial, then the court can dismiss the action for legal separation. For example, what is the testimony? Of course, the testimony will follow the allegation in the complaint. When did you file this complaint for legal separation? Because I caught my spouse in flagrante delicto of having sexual intercourse with his paramour, sir. If you were the counsel for the plaintiff, siyempre itatago mo yung prescriptive period, baka sakali makalusot. Kaya di ba ang style dito, pagka yung fiscal ay lalaki, magagaling yung mga malalaking lawyers, magpapadala ng very beautiful girl, beautiful lawyer to appear. Ayun, kagaya mo halimbawa, padala ka, dress to kill. Legal separation, cross-examination by the prosecutor. Tingnan mo direct to his eyes. Gano'n mo. Style yun, style. Baka sakali makalimutan. Baka sakali makalimutan. Yung problema kung masungit yung piskal. You stated, Madam Witness, that you caught your spouse in flagrante delicto of having sexual intercourse with the paramour. Yes, Your Honor. And that's why you filed this complaint for legal separation that is laying the predicate. Next question. When? Naku, naloko na. When? Kasi hindi mo tinignan ng eye to eye yung fiscal eh. Diba? You have to look at the fiscal eye to eye. Diba? Eye to eye, tapos kikita mo ng konti, makasakali makalimot. Diba? Part of trial technique. Part of trial technique yan. At saka pagka yung judge sa ng takeover, tingnan mo si judge. Ingitihan mo naman si judge. Diba? Kaya mo naman ngitihan si judge eh. Baka sakali makalimutan di when. Diba? Pero pagka sinabi ni judge when, you answer. That was December 1st, 1990, Your Honor. When was the complaint filed, counsel, for the plaintiff? June 2013, Your Honor. So that the ground for the dismissal is already apparent. It became apparent after the trial. Yan. Can the court dismiss it? Yes. Because of that prescriptive period. You have to remember that pursuant to Section 1 of Rule 9 of the Rules of Court, prescription is not one of the defenses that would be waived if it is not invoked in a motion to dismiss. Yeah. Because if the prescriptive period is not apparent from the pleading, do not file a motion to dismiss the ground prescription. But if it will become apparent after the trial, then that is a ground for legal, and that is a ground for the dismissal of the complaint. Yeah. And the ground of prescription, because if the action is already prescribed, then you have lost the power to prosecute or the right to prosecute that action for legal separation. Legal separation, what are the grounds for the dismissal, what are the grounds for legal separation. But then the problem is, what are the effects of legal separation? Diba? What are the effects of legal separation? Pursuant to the provisions of Article 63 of the Family Code, there are effects of legal separation. What will happen to the absolute community, what will happen to the conjugal partnership, dissolve. That will cause the dissolution of the absolute community of the conjugal partnership. But are you entitled to a share of the fruits of the conjugal partnership, for example? Suppose you are governed by the conjugal partnership of gains, and you acquired a property, let's say that you got married in 1990. You acquired the property in 1995. What was the value of the property at the time of the acquisition? The value of the property at the time of the acquisition was 5 million pesos. You filed an action for legal separation only this year. It was granted. Now, is the offending spouse entitled to a share of over the property that was purchased in 1995? Or is he disqualified from having a share of the fruits? Yan, of the fruits lang, di ba? Well, as far as the fruit or the fruits are concerned, yes, you are not entitled to a share if you are the offending spouse in an action for legal separation. But how shall we compute the fruit or the fruits as the case may be? The latest that we can try to recall is the case of Kia versus Kia. Kia versus Kia, where the Supreme Court, of course, said that there is a basis for the computation. That you just determine the value of the property today and the value at the time of the acquisition. At the time of the acquisition, what's the value of the property today? It's 10. What was the value of the property when you acquired the property? Then that was 5. So 10 minus 5 equals 5. Then the fruit is 5. Are you entitled to the 5? No. You're not entitled to the fruit. You're not entitled to the fruit. You try to look into that provision of Article 102, which is the basis of the computation. Where just determine the value, simple formula. Just determine the value today when the degree of legal separation was rendered, and the value when it was acquired. then the difference is the fruit. Then the difference is the fruit. It's in the fruit that you are not entitled to share if you are the guilty spouse in an action for legal separation. The increase in the value, yan. The increase in the value, which is 5, where you are not entitled to share in the increase of that value of the property if you were the spouse guilty in an action for legal separation. What about the support of the family? What about, ito importante, what about the children? Diba? If a child is below the age of 7, in favor of whom will the court award the custody of the child? Generally, the custody of the child who is below the age of 7 is awarded to the mother. And what is the reason behind the general rule that the mother has a built-in advantage over the father of the child if the child is below the age of 7 in matters of custody of the child? And what is the standard answer that we normally write whenever that question arises? If there is a decree of legal separation, if ever there's a question of the custody of the child, and the child is below the age of 7, the court would normally award the custody of the child to the mother. What is the reason for that? Because there is no man who can respond to the sorrows of a woman seeing a child of tender age being torn away from her. That is the normal, that is the general principle. There is no man who can respond to the sorrows of a woman seeing a child of tender age being torn away from her. But the problem is, what is the ground for legal separation that you filed against your wife? Sexual infidelity. Sexual infidelity. Do you think the court will award the custody of the child in favor of the mother? Definitely no. Definitely no. Because if the mother is committing adultery, then that is a ground to separate the child from the mother. Cervantes versus Pardo, you have to remember that. That is the case of Cervantes versus Pardo together with the case of Espiritu versus the Court of Appeals, where Supreme Court said that if that child is below the age of 7, award the custody of the child to the mother normally. Because of the basic principle that there is no man who can respond to the sorrows of a woman seeing a child of tender age being torn away from her. Except there are exceptions to that particular rule. As we've been talking about that case of Cervantes versus Fajardo, there was a custody question over a child below the age of 7 between the mother of the child and the sister of the mother of the child. Why? Here is a woman married but separated from the husband. Then there was a child below the age of 7. The child was brought to the custody of the sister of this woman. Then this woman went to live with another man who himself was a married man. Then they wanted to get back the custody of the child from the sister. The sister said no. And that reached the Supreme Court, Cervantes versus Fajardo. Supreme Court said no. Because you have to remember that the foremost consideration in matters of custody is the welfare of the child. The welfare of the child is of utmost or of paramount importance. When Supreme Court said in the case of Cervantes versus Fajardo, how can it be possible for a child to be developed socially, mentally, psychologically if the environment is an immoral environment? Where the mother was committing adultery, it would be impossible to have moral development of a child under an immoral environment. The Supreme Court said in the case of Cervantes versus Fajardo. So if that is the situation, to whom will the court award the custody of the child? Well, of course, if it is not the mother, to the father, provided that the father is not also unfit. Or provided that the father is fit. But suppose the father is also unfit to take care of the said child. Then, looking into the important element of custody. Di ba yun? Important consideration of custody. The development of the child, the protection of the child. Then the court, exercising its sound judicial discretion, will appoint a guardian. Probably the parents, because in the hierarchy of people who have the custody of children, number 1, parents. Number 2, grandparents. If all of them are minors, then somebody may be appointed by the court. So looking into the best interest of the child, because the best interest is of paramount importance in matters of custody. You look at the case of Espiritu versus the Court of Appeals. Why did the court award the custody of the child below the age of 7 to the father and not to the mother? Because the mother was also committing adultery. And how was the adultery being committed by the woman? In fact, the court even ordered a psychologist to interview the child and make a report of the result of the interview. And what was the interview? What was the result of the interview? The psychologist reported to the court, after I interviewed the child, and the child manifested to me that she was so shocked to see her mommy kissing and hugging Santa Claus. Kasi magpapasko eh. Santa Claus, ano yung Santa Claus? Bad man. Tinanong ng psychologist, saan mo nakita si mommy kissing Santa Claus? Kissing Santa Claus. Doon ho sa bahay namin. Where in your house? Doon sa sala namin. The Supreme Court said, no, do not award the custody of the child to the mother. Because it is important that we have to take into consideration the development of the child. Article 63 of the Family Code. But of course, whenever the custody of the child is at issue, but the child is already 7 and above, they can make a choice. And the court will normally recognize and respect the choice of the two children or the child, as the case may be, the moment the child reaches 7 and above. Because the custody of the child is now an open question. Pagka below the age of 7, closed yan. That is a closed case. Generally. Exception, you prove that exception to the rule. You prove that exception to the rule, that the child belongs to that exceptional situation. So what are the effects of legal separation? What happens to donations you can revoke? Diba? What happens to donations you can revoke? Donations prior to the marriage can be revoked. They can be the subject of revocation. But I have to remember that the court cannot render a judgment of legal separation on the basis of the agreement between the parties, because that cannot be the subject of an agreement. Diba, you cannot have a compromise in legal separation. Because the grounds for legal separation cannot be the subject of compromises. Remember the provisions of 2035 of the Civil Code. What are those things that cannot be compromised? One of them is the ground or grounds for legal separation. So we have taken up the period, we have taken up the defenses in legal separation, the effects of legal separation, the period within which to file the action for legal separation. That if ever there is legal separation, you are not entitled to share of the fruits You're not entitled to share of the fruits of the conjugal partnership of gains or the absolute community of property or regime, or properties as the case may be. That is one part of the decision in the case of Xochitl versus Gozon, where the Supreme Court said that you are not entitled to a part of the shares of the fruits. You are not entitled to a part of the fruits. Xochitl versus Gozon, and that is followed by that case of Kia versus Kia. How do we compute? Value today minus the value yesterday equals the difference is the fruit. You are not entitled to a part of the fruit or the fruits of the conjugal partnership of gains. So legal separation. What are the duties of the husband and wife to one another? Well, you have 6 duties under Article 68. You have duty bound to live together, help one another, support one another, love one another, observe mutual respect and fidelity. That alone provides you with 6 duties as husband and wife. They will bind you wherever you are because of Article 15 of the Civil Code, laws relating to family rights and duties. These are the family rights and duties that will bind you. But can you compel your spouse to return to the conjugal dwelling if your spouse will leave the conjugal dwelling at a future time? Can you sue your spouse to return to the conjugal dwelling? No. Because in Arroyo versus Vasquez, the Supreme Court said no. The act of living together is a personal and voluntary act that cannot be compelled in any proceeding in court. Do you remember the story behind that case of Ilusorio versus Builder in Ilusorio? Where the spouses were quarreling and the spouses were supported by two groups of children of the Ilusorios. Of course, the Ilusorios are very wealthy. They can quarrel for the rest of their lives. Anyway, they can buy their peace through their lawyers. Di ba? But the problem is that, di ba, ito, away-away yung pamilya ng Ilusorio eh. Where the woman and this man went abroad for the medical check-up of the husband. So they went together to the US for the medical check-up of the man. Then after the check-up, they came back. Then they had to buy the medicines. They went to live at the Antipolo property. But the quarrel among the children, siding with the parents, there were two factions of the children quarreling. And the parents were also part of the quarrel. So they were living together. So ayaw ng mga anak that they have to live together. And what ignited the separation again of the spouses? Sabi ng children siding with the father, our mother is killing our father softly. How do you kill your spouse softly? Because instead of 1, 2, binibigay ng medicine. Diba? There was an overdose of medicine. Diba? Pagka na-overdose ng sobra, mamamatay na yun. Kaya killing the husband softly. Yeah. Killing you softly. Because there was an overdose of medicine. Overdose in the morning, overdose in the evening. Ano mangyayari after several days of overdose? Mamamatay yun. So, it's not so. Iwalay na naman. Up to death. To the extent that the wife even filed a petition for habeas corpus, citing the children as respondents, asking the court to require them to produce the body of their father so that their father will return to the conjugal dwelling. Sabi ng Supreme Court, no, because the act of living together is a voluntary and personal act. They decided that as early as the old case of Arroyo versus Vasquez. That even the writ of habeas corpus will not issue in order to compel coverture. So if you leave the conjugal dwelling, your spouse will not file a petition for habeas corpus citing your parents-in-law to produce the body of your spouse. Baka sabihin ng court, it's for you to explain why your spouse left the conjugal dwelling. Because that is a personal and voluntary act. That if ever you're going to cause damage to the family, you bring dishonor to the family, can that spouse of yours file an action for damages against you? Remember the case of Ten Chavez versus Escanio? Where here is a woman, here is a man. The woman got married to this man, but sino ba itong babae ito? Belonging to a well-to-do family. Belonging to a well-to-do family, but the well-to-do family did not accept that man. Did not accept that man. So what did the parents of the woman do? The woman was prodded to leave the conjugal dwelling. They left the conjugal dwelling. Even went to the extent of getting married to another man. And what did the man do? The man filed a complaint not only against the woman, but even against the mother of the woman for damages. Because if you try to look into the provisions of Article 72 of the Family Code, yung Article 72 of the Family Code, then the law is to the effect that if you bring dishonor or discredit to the family, then you can be made liable for damages by your aggrieved spouse. So yung 72 came from Ten Chavez versus Escandio. Now, what about if you are married? Can you engage in business or industry or exercise a profession? Of course, yes. Abogado ka. You got married to a girl who is very rich, belonging to a very rich family. Who is your spouse? You got married to this lady, the daughter of Mr. Henry C. The president and the CEO of one of the biggest corporations of Mr. Henry C. receiving 3 million as compensation a month. But you are a young lawyer practicing your profession. O sabi ni Mrs. mo, saan pupunta? I will appear in court. It's like physical injuries. Magkano kikitain mo doon? Libre. Libre. First case, libre. Nako, kawawa ka naman. Hirap-hirap umupod yan ng kung minsan 8 oras. Problem. Sabi ng asawa mo, what will you do with your earnings? How much will you earn? Eh, kinikita ko 3 million a month neto. Meron tayong condominium property dyan. 1 floor. Bigger than this one. Bono niya. We have a brand new car every quarter. Everything is free. Neto yung 3 million. What will you do with that? Objection. 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 Is not a valid ground for the woman to object. That is not a valid ground for the woman to object because the ground must tend to be a valid, serious, and moral ground. Valid, serious, and moral ground. That if ever there is an objection and you cannot agree, go to court. Go to court. And the court will determine whether the objection is founded on a valid, serious, or moral ground. That's where the court will exercise its sound judicial discretion in order to determine whether the objection of the woman is really founded or the man is really founded on a valid, serious, or moral ground. Valid, serious, or moral ground. Now, if for example, you're going to engage in a business or industry or exercise a profession. Initially, your spouse did not object, but later on, it redounded to the benefit of the family, and it redounded to the benefit of the family. That's chargeable against the absolute community or the conjugal partnership of gains. So initially also, there was no objection. It redounded to the benefit of the family, but there was an objection later on. Then the court will determine whether it is founded on valid, serious, or moral ground. In the event that it will be a valid, serious, or moral ground, then any liability that you may incur where there is that subsequent objection will be answered by your own properties. The liabilities will be charged against your own properties. Your own properties. That is Article 73 of the Family Code. That's 73 of the Family Code. I'm talking of an amendatory provision. There is an amendatory provision to Article 73. And what I've been saying are the contents of that law. Republic Act number 10572. 10572. Amending the provisions of Article 73 of the Family Code. Article 73 of the Family Code. 10572. It's the new law that has amended the provisions of Article. In-expand lang naman ng konti. In-specify lang naman yun eh. If there is no objection, and it redounds to the family, chargeable against the absolute community of the conjugal partnership, the common properties in short. But initially, there was no objection, but there was an objection later on, then the obligations contracted then will be charged against your exclusive properties. Yun naman ang sinabi ng Republic Act number 10572, amending the provisions of Article 73 of the Family Code. Then I have been saying that the nature and consequences of marriage are governed by law. They cannot be the subject of any stipulation or agreement between the parties, except your marriage settlement. Except your marriage settlement, which may be absolute, conjugal, complete separation of property regime, or any other property regime that may govern the parties during the marriage. So what law will govern? The antenuptial agreement, the provisions of the law, the customs, and the traditions of the place. Edi, madali lang naman yun. We are just trying to look into Article 74 and 75. We started with Article 1, that the nature and consequences of marriage are governed by law and not subject to any agreement, except the marriage settlement. And what will be your marriage settlement and what will govern the property relationship during the marriage. 75 and 74 of the Family Code. In the absence of any agreement between the parties, in the absence of any antenuptial agreement between the parties, they are presumed to be governed by the absolute community of property regime. But if there's an agreement, they can have absolute, they can have conjugal, complete separation, or any other property regime that may be agreed upon by the parties. Or any properties or property relationship that may govern them. But let us say, for example, that prior to the marriage, they agreed on a particular antenuptial agreement. Antenuptial agreement is conjugal, antenuptial agreement is absolute, as the case may be. Or they are going to say that there is a complete separation of property regime. Can they change the property regime during the marriage? No, they cannot. Prior to the marriage, yes, you can change it every minute. Ayaw ko yung absolute, gusto ko yung conjugal. After 1 minute, or after 1 day, after. But the moment you get married, no, you cannot do it anymore. Except if there is an order of the court. You have to look into the mother provision of the law, and that is the provision of Article 76 of the Family Code. That the spouses cannot change their property regime during the marriage, except if there is an order of the court. So, for example, you agreed to be bound by the absolute community. You put it into writing, you signed it, then you registered it in the proper civil registry and registry of properties to bind third persons pursuant to Article 77 of the Family Code. But you want to change that property regime from that of absolute to that of any other property, like complete separation of property regime. So, during the marriage, you put into writing, you agreed, you signed, etc., etc. From then on, upon the signing of this contract or agreement between us, then we will be governed by the complete separation of property regime. So you signed it, you subscribed it before the notary public. Now, are you now governed by the complete separation of property regime? No. Pursuant to Article 136 of the Family Code, the mother provision is 76, but you go to 136. If there is an agreement between the parties, that agreement will become effective only upon approval of the court. So, you are governed now by the absolute community, but you agreed to be governed by the complete separation of property regime. You put that into writing. That alone will not become effective until after it shall have been approved by the court. What do? You file a petition for the approval of the said agreement. In other place, we are married. Before we got married, we agreed on the absolute community. But later on, Your Honor, we changed our minds and we entered into this contract. Maybe ask the court to grant our prayer for the approval of this contract, Your Honor. Are you sure that you want to be governed by the complete separation? Yes, Your Honor. Granted. Did you change it? Yes. How did you do it? You went to court. You're now governed by the complete separation of property regime. But later on, you feel very uncomfortable being governed by the complete separation. Let us revert to the former property regime. So you put that into writing all over again. Will the mere fact that we have already put that into writing or you have agreed, will that mere fact revert you to the former No. You have to go back to court. Your Honor, please. It is not good to be governed by the complete separation of property regime. What do you want? Maybe be allowed to revert to the former property regime of absolute community, Your Honor. Granted. That's where you're going to change the property regime. That's where you're going to change the property regime. If there's a contract, go to court. You can even have a joint petition for the approval of the contract. Or if there is a ground for separation of properties during the marriage under the provisions of Article 135 of the Family Code. There is a long enumeration of grounds for separation of properties during the marriage. We have been living separately, in fact, for a period of 1 year. Can you go to court and file a petition for separation of properties during the marriage? Yes. So from absolute community, if the prayer for separation of properties during the marriage will be granted, then you will be governed by the complete separation of property regime. But suppose you're going to live together again. Can you go to court and manifest, Your Honor, please, we are not living separately from one another anymore. We are now living together happily, Your Honor. Are you sure? May we ask that we revert to the former property regime. Did you change it? Yes, you went to court. Did you change it again? Yes. But you went to court. Or let us say, for example, that there is abuse in the administration of the properties of the husband and wife. Remember that Articles 96 and 124 would tell us that you are the joint administrators of the absolute community in 96 and conjugal properties in 124. But suppose one of the spouses is committing abuse, that there is now dissipation of the properties of the spouses. Is that a ground for separation of properties during the marriage? Can you go to court? Yes. Your Honor, please, my husband is abusing, etc. May we ask that we be allowed to have separation of properties during the marriage. If the court will grant it, then what will happen? You will be governed by the complete separation of property regime. But suppose there is no more abuse. You go back to court and manifest that there is no more abuse. What do you want? What relief do you want, parties? Your Honor, please, since there is no more abuse, may we be allowed to revert to the former property regime. Are you sure? Yes, Your Honor. Granted. Or if there is abandonment. Ito, maganda itong abandonment nito. The case of Partosa is a good case for abandonment. Remember that husband and wife living in Dumaguete? And this woman, a resident or was born in Zamboanguita, who is from Negros Oriental. There is a town in Negros Oriental. The name is Zamboanguita. So ito, taga Zamboanguita, during summer time, sabi na, let's have our vacation in Zamboanguita. Sabi ng mister, no, ano lang. But when the woman returned to the conjugal dwelling, that woman was prevented from returning to the conjugal dwelling without any justification, to the extent that you are being threatened. No, you cannot return to the conjugal dwelling under the circumstance. After several months, after several years, you file a petition for separation of properties on the ground of abandonment. When is there abandonment? If one of the spouses leaves the conjugal dwelling without the intention of returning, yun. So you file a petition for separation of properties during the marriage on the ground of abandonment. And what evidence are you going to present? I went on a summer vacation in my place of birth. But when I returned to the conjugal dwelling, I was prevented from returning to the conjugal dwelling without any justifiable reason at all. It has been a year or 2 or 3 since then, Your Honor. May I ask for separation of properties on the ground of abandonment? Defense of the man. Well, if it is abandonment, Your Honor, that's not true. Because I never left the conjugal dwelling without the intention of returning. It is my wife who is outside of the conjugal dwelling. But allegation says, or evidence shows, that you prevented her from returning to the conjugal dwelling. If you were the judge, how would you rule? How would you decide the case? Diba? Abandonment. That is the case of Partosaho versus the Court of Appeals. If I were the judge, I would grant the petition for separation of properties during the marriage on the ground of abandonment. Sabi mo, you define abandonment. Abandonment is the act of leaving the conjugal dwelling without the intention of returning. The facts would show that the man never left the conjugal dwelling without the intention of returning. On the other hand, he prevented the other spouse from returning to the conjugal dwelling without any justifiable reason. Ito na yung Partosaho. In the case of Partosaho versus the Court of Appeals, the Supreme Court said, but for you to abandon, it is not necessary that you have to leave the conjugal dwelling without the intention of returning. It is enough that you prevent that spouse from returning to the conjugal dwelling without any justifiable reason. And that is a case of constructive abandonment. That is a case of constructive abandonment. At the other grounds, we've been living separately from one another for a period of more than a year. But suppose you reconcile and live together, can you revert to the former property regime? But suppose later on, that the spouse has allowed the other spouse to return to the conjugal dwelling, can they just revert to the former property regime? No. They have to go back to court. That's why I said that pursuant to the provisions of Article 76 of the Family Code, the moment you are already married, you cannot just change your property regime. For you to change the property regime, there must have to be a court action where there must be approval of the court. Otherwise, the general principle applies in the provisions of Article 76 of the Family Code. So the other provision there is 76. The two other important articles are 135 and 136 of the Family Code. Can you donate to one another prior to the marriage? Prior, yes. Can you donate to one another during the marriage, whether the marriage is valid, void, or common law? You cannot, by reason of public policy. By reason of public policy. The possibility of undue influence that may be exerted by one spouse against the other is what is sought to be prevented by the law. Donation prior to the marriage. How much can you donate to one another prior to the marriage? What is Article 84, the Family Code? Can you glance for a while the provisions of Article 84? And let us have a short factual situation. A and B are getting married on December 1. this morning they put into writing their antenuptial agreement. Absolute community. Let us say, for example, that on October 1, the man will put into writing a donation prior to the marriage. I'm donating all my present properties to my future wife. On November 2, the woman will also put into writing, I'm donating all my present properties to my future husband. December 1, they will be getting married. After the honeymoon, they will see you. Attorney, these are the facts. To what extent are the donations valid? Before the marriage, you agreed on an absolute community of property regime. Before the marriage, you donated all your properties to your future spouses. You donated to one another all your present properties. After the marriage, you consulted the lawyer. To what extent are the donations valid? That's why I ask you to glance at Article 84. What is the figure there? Not exceeding 100%, not exceeding 50%, not exceeding 25%, not exceeding 20%. Ano ba yung 20%? 1/5, no? 1/4 is 25, 1/2 is 50, 100%. What is your advice? To what extent are the two donations valid, attorney? Is it 100 or is it 50 or is it The Article 84 eh. Nandiyan sa harapan ninyo Article 84. If the future spouses agreed to be bound by a property regime other than the absolute, what is the extent of the validity of that donation? Other than the absolute, not exceeding 20% or 1/5 of the present properties. But the question is like this, they agreed to be bound by the absolute community. What is your advice? Everything is valid, 100%. Because you do not even have to donate to one another. At any rate, all those properties shall be brought into the common fund as provided for by Article 91 of the Family Code. If you are governed by the absolute community, present properties, except as provided for in 92, shall be brought to the common fund. So your advice is 100%. In fact, you do not even have to donate to one another. For the reason that all these properties shall be brought into the common fund the moment you contract that marriage. Because of that provision of Article 84 of the Family Code. Because of that provision of Article 84 of the Family Code. Kaya medyo nakakalito yung lokong yan eh. Di ba? Nakakalito yung lokong yan. Other than the absolute eh. Ibig sabihin, if you agree to be bound by the conjugal, di ba? Or by the complete separation or any other property regime, the limit is not exceeding 1/5 of your existing properties. So what would be your advice to your first client? Ayun, meron na naman blank check. Di ba? Blank check ha. Kaya lang hindi masyadong mahal yun. Di ba? Maliit lang yun siguro. So my advice would be 100%. What is the legal basis? Article 84 of the Family Code. I would even advise them that there was not even a need for them to donate to one another. At any rate, all those properties shall be put into the common fund known as the absolute community of property regime, except if those properties fall under Article 92 of the Family Code. Yung tatlong properties in Article 92. So that is the donation. Prior to the marriage. But can you donate during the marriage? No, you cannot donate during the marriage. By reason of public policy. What about if the marriage is void? What about if the relationship is a common law relationship? Second sentence of Article 87 would tell us that you cannot. And where did the second sentence of Article 87 come from? Where did it come from? It came from the case of Matabuena versus Cervantes. Because in the civil code before, what was contemplated as a prohibition was prohibition for illegally wedded relationship to donate to one another. In the case of Matabuena versus Cervantes, it was a common law relationship. So ang contention mo is, well, under the civil code, the only people who are legally wedded are prohibited from donating to one another. And yet, it is a common law relationship. But what did the Supreme Court say? If you can prohibit the legally wedded from donating to one another by reason of public policy because of the possibility of undue influence that may be exerted by one against the other, with more reason that you have to prohibit the common law husband and wife. Because otherwise, if you allow the common law and you prohibit the legally wedded from donating to one another, you allow the common law and prohibit the legally wedded, are you not giving better rights and privileges to those who are violating the law? The Supreme Court said, if there is that public policy, because of the possibility of undue influence that may be exerted by one against the other, with more reason that it exists in a common law relationship. Because in a common law relationship, remember that there is no, wala sinasabi that in rich, what is that? In richer and in poorer. Di ba ganon? Till death do us part. Di ba parang ganon yun sa common law relationship? There is no such thing as till death do us part. Because the relationship is a loose relationship. So with more reason, that there may be possibility of undue influence that may be exerted by one against the other. So that the principle in Matabuena was put into the family code as a second sentence in Article 87 of the family code. So whether legally wedded, or whether it is common law, or whether it is void, you cannot donate to one another. The reason of public policy. But there are cases, one of them is the case of Agapay versus Palang, where here is a man from Binalunan in Pangasinan married. That man went to Hawaii and worked not only double time, triple time, and etc. Trabaho. After retiring from Hawaii, then went back to his town in Binalunan. But did not go direct to his family, but went to live with a young girl who was between 19 and 20. Tala niya. Retired na yun. But now, living in a fresh relationship with a girl who was only between 19 and 20, without any visible means of income or livelihood. Eventually, they got married. The marriage was void. But the man was very galante, mabait. Binigyan ng 20,000 yung babae. Here is 20,000, bahala ka na sa buhay mo dyan. Whatever you will do with the 20,000, I don't care. Basta bibigay ko sa iyo on your birthday. Bumili ng property. Registered under her name. Then the man died. Came the legally wedded wife. Sabi na, these properties belong to us in the first marriage. Sabi nito, except one. You can get the rest, but do not get this one. Because this is my property. Look at the title. I acquired this during my marriage with our husband. Kasi pareho pinakasalan. Our husband, plural. Di ba? At least, hindi madamot ito, di ba? Hindi mo inangkin ng solo. Hindi mo inangkin ng solo yung lalaki. Problem is, there was an action to recover. Sabi na, no way. You cannot get this property because this is mine. But is it not a fact? Cross-examination, is it not a fact that you were only between 19 and 20 when you went to live with that man and you got married to that man? Yes, sir. And you bought this property during that coverture? Yes, sir. Did you have any means of livelihood during the time? None, sir. How much did you? 20,000, sir. If you did not have a means of livelihood during that time, where did you get the 20,000 to buy that property? Ito na ngayon. Well, I'm very honest, Your Honor. Sometimes it does not pay to be honest. Di ba? Does not pay to be honest here. I'm just honest, Your Honor. That man was so kind, gave me 20,000 pesos during our coverture. What did you do with the 20,000? I bought the property, Your Honor. That's why that's mine. Some Supreme Court, that was a donation during the marriage. That was a donation during the marriage. Agapay versus Palang, prohibited under the provisions of Article 87 of the Family Code. That's why, whether it is a valid marriage, void ito then that is a donation prohibited by reason of public policy. In the case of Arcaba versus Tabangura, it's a different story because here is a man, a woman, married, but the woman died. The man, being a widower, was sickly. No children. And because of the fact that this man was old and sickly, there were three caregivers. 1, 2, 3. Two of them were the nieces of this old man. But apparently, the other woman was already living under one roof with that man. Meron ng cohabitation between the third caregiver and the man. Not only living under one roof, but the third caregiver was even sleeping on one bed and in one room with that man. They were reporting themselves to be married already. And during that coverture, that cohabitation, the man donated the property to the woman. Valid? Void. By reason of public policy under the second sentence of Article 87. Alam na natin yon. Pero merong side ba, merong isang other part of Arcaba. But let us say, for example, that here is a man. Example lang, sabi sa Supreme Court. Here is a man, a very rich man. There is that amorous relationship between this man and this woman. The amorous relationship is not known to anybody, not even the closest friends, relatives, etc. Nobody knows. In the community, nobody knows that there is such a relationship between that man and that woman. But whenever that man would like to have a date with that woman, they do not even meet each other in the Philippines. They would meet each other somewhere abroad. Bao lang yan. They're expensive. Sabi nung matanda, you pick up your ticket at Lufthansa, I'll see you in Paris. Bao lang yan. You pick up your ticket at Philippine Airlines, I'll see you in Las Vegas. Meron pa ba? Meron na yata, wala na yata eh. Wala na yata ang pupunta sa Las Vegas na pal. Hindi na natin meron. I'll see you in Canada. I'll see you somewhere, etc., etc. They do not even board the plane together. They do not even check in together. They would even occupy different rooms, pero they are adjacent. Naka-reserve lagi yung adjacent rooms eh. Merong secret entrance or exit. Diba? And they would only see each other during those nights of clandestine trysts. Diba? And during those nights of clandestine trysts, there would be repeated acts of intercourse. They would even come back to the Philippines, not boarding the same plane, as if they do not know, as if they do not even know each other. Let us say that a donation is given by the man to the woman is not valid. Sabi Supreme Court, valid. Valid. Sabi Supreme Court, valid. Because there is no cohabitation under these circumstances. Diba? Walang cohabitation eh. That is the other side of Arcaba versus Tabangura. Pero that was not the basic issue. Pero nagbigay lang ng sample ang Supreme Court. Suppose that these are the circumstances. The Supreme Court said that since there is no cohabitation, they are not cohabiting with one another, then that donation would be valid. The donation would be valid because the keyword there is cohabitation or coverture between that man and that woman under a legally wedded situation or a void situation or a common law relationship. Let's have a short break. Short break.